A$AP Rocky is a man with excellent taste. I mean, he wifed up Rihanna. Come on. But his amazing taste extends to his music production choices as well. Rocky loves experimenting with psychedelic, glitchy sounds that create larger-than-life tracks that really draw you into his world. So today, we're stepping inside Rocky's world to break down his productions and find the secrets you can use in your own beats. We're going to dive in to how to recreate the dreamy, underwater synth vibes that Rocky has mastered, why Clams Casino's glitchy production is so amazing, and see what any producer can learn from Rocky's beats. If you want to speed up your progress with music production massively, I do have a couple of spots open in my one-to-one coaching program. If you want to make your best music ever, book a free call in the description, and we'll see if the program's the right fit for you. Let's get into the video. First things first, I'm already thinking we need to do 2 sections to this beat because we need something with like the psychedelic, vintagey kind of vibe, and then we need another section with like the Clams Casino kind of style, glitchy production, which is psychedelic as well, but not to the same extent. So we're already thinking 2 sections. Sound-wise, for the vintage part, I really like the organ that's going on in Everyday. So maybe we start with the organ for the first section, maybe layer it up with a Rhodes and some other synth sounds, and then in the second part, the Clams Casino part for the chords, we need something glitchy. We need something we can like chop up, sample, resample, all that whole ish. So stay tuned for that. But first up, let's get that organ in. Okay, we found this cool mellotron sound like this. So let's lay some chords in. With A$AP's chords, they're usually super simple. So we're not doing any crazy substitutions, extensions, or anything like that. I'm going to sneak one in because I like it and it sounds good. But generally, we don't need any like crazy chord stuff going on. We're just going to go pretty simple here. So to break these chords down really quickly, we're just going from an F major to a G major to an A minor over E and then to a C major 7 just to add the slightest bit of jazz and dissonance in there, and that just rounds us, takes us on a nice little loop, super easy. We can build from this and then get a second progression going where we make it way more, glitchy and psychedelic and stuff. But this is a great place to start for songs like Smoked Away My Brain, Sundress, Everyday. They have this more like vintage kind of vibe, so this gives us a really good base to build on in terms of that vintage sound. So let's just process this up, then we're going to get an actual organ in there and maybe like a Rhodes as well, and just get this sample sounding a bit thicker, a bit more old school. So we've got some compression and some saturation going on there, which is sounding lovely. Other than that, I just think a little bit of needlepoint over the top of that will get us exactly where we want to go. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the needlepoint sounds better before this, actually, so let's do that. Awesome. Right. Well, we've got that, so let's render that and then do the same thing on like an actual organ sound to just layer this up a little bit. Hang on, this actually sounds like the sort of lead that would be in like a psychedelic A$AP Rocky track. Let's just see if we can get something in here. This is a complete accident, but let's just see if anything comes to mind here. Yeah, why not? What about if it was down an octave? Or what if we just layer it in octaves? You know what? That will actually work. That will actually work. Let's process this as well. Again with some EQ. Something like that. Now maybe some actual chorus and ambience and whatnot. That's very cool. Now we put on some spaced out. That's cool. It literally just needs an EQ after it to just make it more filtered. Yeah, that just works immediately, doesn't it? Let's render that and get the organ that we were actually planning on getting in there. I mean, that's cool because something A$AP Rocky does a lot, and it's actually one of the production secrets I was going to talk about, is that he loves to interweave vocals with his beats, which sounds amazing. He's using the vocals like an instrument. So on Smoked Away My Brain, which has Imogen Heap's vocals like all over it, he's really treating those vocals like they're really part of the beat, like they're all sidechained in there. So with this sound, I think we could do something similar. So let's just fail to get the organ in again and then record this and then sidechain the hell out of it, get it all sort of processed nicely, and I mean, that'll sound really cool. We're already getting some like quite a nice thick sounding sample. That's cool. That's very cool. We might be able to glide these into each other if we let them overlap just a little bit. That is crazy. Sounds amazing. Let's EQ that. Just a bit of needlepoint on there and I think we'll be really in a good place. Just gonna get a bit more low out of there. That's sounding really good. Let's just render that out. We can get that side chaining into a reverb, I think, or a reverb into the side chain maybe, like really aggressively side chain on the quarter note. Yeah, to give more rhythm. Yeah, you know what? I think we need to automate that LFO tool. Yeah. Okay, well, that's super cool, isn't it? And now we can put a Valhalla for the LFO tool so that that's getting... And maybe this is speeding up. I want this to go faster. Okay, that's really cool. This is already getting, kind of mixing the two production styles here. We're going like a bit glitchy, like on Level and Fashion Killer, but we're also keeping that vintage vibe. I don't know, this is cool. This is cool. I'm feeling this a lot, actually. Okay, so we've got this more old school organ sound. Very nice. Get a bit of needlepoint on there. We're going to automate the spin down on this needlepoint to just happen at the very end. Very cool, very cool. Okay, we got the organ. I mean, these are all sounding really good. I think we can now treat these as a group, add in some drums and bass to kind of round out this first section of the beat. Now, one of the production secrets that I think makes ASAP's music stand out, I should say, Rocky's music, because there's a lot of ASAPs, that I think makes Rocky's music stand out so much is the fact that he uses a ton of different styles of drums. So he goes for a mix of like live breaks, then on the Clams Casino produced stuff, it's much more trappy, much more sample focused, and then he does something pretty cool actually that I haven't seen very many people do before, which is that sometimes he uses sampled drums but makes them feel like a live break. So the snare will sound like a clear snare sample, but it'll be kind of played in a way that feels more live. So I think for this section where we're going for that more vintage feel, we'll do exactly that. We'll get some samples, but we'll play them in a kind of like a live sounding pattern, maybe get some live hats over the top. So let's go in with that. So like I talked about in the Leon Thomas video that I just did last week, a really good way to maintain that human feel to the drums is by not quantizing 100%. So with ASAP stuff, with Rocky stuff, where we want to retain that kind of live feeling on the vintage sounding stuff because that's the vibe he's kind of going for, I'm just putting the quantizer at 80% and then letting some of that natural, human timing come through with the way I played it in. So let's just give that a light quantize. And you can see if we zoom in, like things are still just a little bit off the grid, like nothing super, super locked. All right, now let's apply some clipping to the drums because their peak levels are super high. This is a little quick mixing tip. If your levels are peaking near zero, as in your drums are really loud but they don't sound as loud as you want, you can just clip the tops off them. So if I just go like on link here, you'll see I'm just going to play the kicks and it's really loud. And I'm just going to clip the tops off and we'll just soften this off as well to get some soft clipping going on. So check out the peak meter and what this clipping is actually doing to my levels. If I go here, this is peaking really near zero. If I turn on this clipping plugin, it's clipping it right down to about -6, so I've got 6 dB extra headroom, and you'll notice the drums sound just as loud. So that's a really cool trick if you want to make your tracks, like your mix, basically sound louder without sacrificing much, basically, especially on drums. Like you can get away with clipping your drums quite a lot. These live hats can sound cool. Let's get something like that in. Very cool. Now, I think we want to actually distort those hi-hats out a little bit because everything's like a little bit crushed on this track. Like Rocky's like psychedelic kind of production. You can make some weird choices. Now, we aren't trying to, steal Take Keith's signature sound with the loud hi-hats here, so we're going to turn these all down a little bit. They're a bit loud right now. And the hi-hats are kind of overpowering the kick and snare right now. You can fix that with some bus compression, which is sidechained up a bit. Another little production secret you can use when you're making rocky beats is to keep that kind of psychedelic, lively, like breathing feel is you can just sidechain your like main chords and stuff to the kick and the snare so that you're getting that pulsing, breathing. It just adds a bit of like psychedelic feeling really. So we are going to do that. Helps that punch through so much more as well. So this is sounding really cool. I'm thinking I want to do some sort of vocal sample because on Smoked Away My Brain, which has, again, Imogen Heap all over it, that is just such a cool sound. So let's try and do something inspired by that. Smoked Away My Brain is produced by Clams Casino, so he's obviously doing a hell of a lot of like sampling bit and, pitching everything around. I want to use my own voice for this vocal sample, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to record this down in speed with some varispeed, and then we'll pitch it back up, and hopefully my voice will sound, all weird.
Where you gonna get me gone? Where you gone? No one knows.
Alright, that's one. Let's do another one of those.
Where you gonna won't get you gone? Where you going? No one knows.
Now, if we can think of like another kind of ooey section that would fit over that. Okay, so we put a little bit of ambience onto these vocals. Let's see how they sound sped back up to 121, eh? Okay, we got those vocals, sped them back up to our original tempo, varispeeded them a bit, and now we're going to get to one of the coolest production secrets that I see in A$AP Rocky's music, which is turning vocals into an instrument as if they're part of the beat. This is something Clams Casino is an expert at, so we are going to do just that right now. So how do we do that? We're going to render these all out as this vocal stem out as a sample and then resample it. So let's make a chop of this using Serato sample. Ooh, okay. This is making me want to go to the B section of this beat. Go into those glitchy part and the psychedelic part, like on Levels, like on LSD, those kind of songs, and then harmonize chords around that. So why don't we just do that? We'll just copy the same drums for now, but we'll change them in a bit just so we have like something with rhythm. This is cool. This will be really cool. Ooh, that's crazy. Now if we put some like Valhalla on there. Let's flip back to the other section for just a second and treat up these original vocals with some EQ, doing like a radio filter or phone filter. That sounds very cool already. Let's get the Valhalla on there before that. We'll have the LFO tool. We'll have the LFO tool that we had on, I think it's this. Same LFO tool we'll do. That's crazy cool. Okay, so the next day, didn't have time to finish the beat yesterday, but we are going to crack on with the B section right now. But just before we do that, I was listening to this group. I think we can get those Analog Lab synths sounding more underwater, more psychedelic, more like Rocky's production on like LSD and Level, Fashion Killer, that kind of thing. So I think if we get an RC20 on there, we can get something like really cool sort of group processing. I'm mainly actually thinking about the EQ. What if we automate that tone knob and we'll automate it down so it's kind of fading out, or should we start it down? Okay, that's cool already. Now what if we actually go into RC20 and get a little bit of wobble and stuff? Little bit of that digital kind of distortion stuff. I do like the magnetic option on this plugin, so let's try a bit of that. Okay, let's try that with the RC20 off. On. It's a little bit strong. Let's just turn the magnitude down a little bit. I want it to be like a crazy strong effect. Giving a little flavor of that extra psychedelic vibe. Okay, now we can move on to the next section. Okay, that's super cool. I just want to get some chords over there, really. That's like my main thing right now. I'm thinking we have some fun with the Prophet, maybe get some cool sounds in on there. Okay, we've got this awesome Prophet sound loaded up. Sounds like this. This actually brings me to another production secret that you can use in your own beats. So this one comes straight from Clams Casino, who produced some of Rocky's biggest hits, like I Smoked Away My Brain, Fashion Killer, Level, like tons of his biggest songs. And what makes Clams Casino's production so unique is his willingness to just completely go experimental, psychedelic, and that really lends itself to Rocky's sound. So like with this synth sound, I've put a hell of a lot of distortion on it. If I just turn off the distortion, it's just quite a nice, smooth pad. But I know that if Clams Casino was producing this, he wouldn't be happy with a regular sound. So the production secret here is really to just experiment and push the boat out as much as you can. Do something weird, do something unexpected. And that's how you can kind of push your sound further and make your own beats better. Because that sounds a hell of a lot better than what we had before. So let's record something in with that sound. Okay, we got that sounding nice. We got a quick EQ curve on there. Okay, so seeing as we're going for like a Clams Casino kind of rocky vibe here, we need to make this more glitchy, more weird, basically. So one of the cool things that Clams Casino likes to do from time to time, this is another production secret that I wanted to mention, share with you guys, is that he often will gate his synth to some sort of trigger so that you can just make the synth play only when your external MIDI is playing. So let's dive in just exactly how to do that right now. It's pretty easy. So what we want to do is just grab a gate plugin. I like to use Pro G from FabFilter. We just need to go into Expert, make the sidechain external. Then we need to find something to trigger it with. So we've got our gate. Now we want to get a sampler. You can just use the stock sampler in your DAW. In Studio One, it's called Sample One. And we want to drag in a noise sample. So it doesn't really matter what noise you have. You just want it to be sustained, basically, so that you can choose how long the MIDI is going to play for. So we've got this. All we need to do is set the output of this to the sidechain of our Pro G. And there we go. Now we can just play this in gated and make it nice and choppy and just sort of do a MIDI pattern as to how we actually want it to sound. That's a really cool way to get your synth sounding a bit weirder, a bit more glitchy. Then I'm thinking we add something granular on top of it and we should have a really cool sound. Now to get this sounding exactly right, we kind of need to play with the release and attack of our gate. The release is a little long for me right now. Now we can add some extra processing to this. Like we said, we're going to maybe go something granular because Clams Casino on this kind of B-section vibe. He likes to do some really wonky, really eccentric production. So let's go for a bit of Portal. This is super cool. That is super, super cool. Now if we get a reverb to go on top of it maybe. Awesome. Let's filter that out. I'm thinking we add something granular-y to this sample we had as well, maybe a crystallizer. Okay, so for our next production secret, we're looking at A$AP's newest song, Hijack, where he has these really cool synth pads, but they're really ambient and sound kind of underwater. Rocky does that on a lot of his discography, but the fact that he's still doing it to this day shows just how much of like a key part of his sound it is. So I think for this B section, which we've already kind of got a little bit of the Clams Casino vibe going, next up we can get some really cool like ambient synth pads and try and capture a bit of that underwater sound that Rocky's done on some of his later stuff like Hijack. Okay, so we got this like washy pad sound. This should be perfect for making something sound nice and underwater. Now this brings me to what I think is arguably the most important production secret that you guys should take away from this video, which is that Rocky's beats are often pretty simple. The real art to making these beats well, in my humble opinion, is finding ways to make a fairly simple chord progression, fairly simple drum patterns actually breathe and have life to them. So this is what you can see here we've already done with that pad by gating it. Then we've taken a vocal sample and chopped that up to make it sound more interesting than just a simple vocal melody beat repeating over and over again. Now we've got these synth chords which we're going to push down underwater and make those breathe as well. So you're getting basically 3 different layers of synths. Each on their own is maybe like not the most interesting, but it's making them combine in such a way that actually catches your ear and sort of draws you in as a listener, while still leaving space for the artist, in this case Rocky, to, you know, do their thing over the top of it, or if you're going to rap over your own beats, do that kind of thing. So that's what I think is, if you take anything away from this video, that would be what I would suggest is the most important thing to take away, because when you're making these beats, it's really easy to make them way too static, way too, you know, just a standard chord progression looping over and over. It's very easy to make them boring, and investing the time into techniques you can use to make your simple beats less boring, like using granular effects, like using, you know, EQs and reverbs to make everything sound washed out and underwater, whether you want to add loads of distortion to certain sounds to just add a bit of extra life, a bit of extra oomph to it, keep your ear engaged, to keep it interesting. In a minute, I'm going to show you a couple of extra secret tricks that you can use to keep beats like this interesting, so stay locked in for those. But in the meantime, we're going to deal with these synth chords. I think what we want to do here is elongate these out, because it's going to make the filter rise and fall. Now, let's make this more interesting than just a standard chord progression by adding that underwater effect we just heard on Hijack. So first off, we're going to want to get a filter on it. So it's already getting us some of the way there. Next up, we can add, I think we'll add some delay, and we'll put that into a reverb. Ooh. That's getting us already a lot closer. Possibly a bit of micro shift on there as well. Can just add to that effect. That's cool. That's cool. What about Valhalla? Now, I'm actually thinking about what might happen if we just pitch this up an octave. Yeah, I like that. That gets that nicely out of the way of the other synths we've got going on. Now, what I want to do here with the gated synth we have is I want to duplicate it, and then we're going to actually manually chop it as well to give like some stuttering effects in the middle to really lean into that Clams Casino kind of vibe. Okay, so I've just chopped this sample fairly randomly. Now, to make this more Clams Casino-ish, I'm thinking we can add some distortion to this, maybe even pitch it down. What if we pitched it down an octave and then took out a lot of the low end? Ooh, that's cool. Now, what if we add distortion from Devil Lock? That's really cool, actually. And then some ambience on it will be nice. Let's add some reverb to this as well. Maybe a crystalline. Let's hear this. Ooh, cool. That's really cool. That adds like bounce to this section as a whole. Okay, so we got that chop. Now that's one really cool way of adding some extra interest to your beats. Now we're going to get onto another really cool way of adding extra interest and life to your beats, which have just, you know, fairly simple repetitive chord progressions and structures. And that is having evolving textures. So how do we do this? And it's going to add so much life to me. Trust me. Stay with me on this one. So we're going to find a texture. In this case, I'm just going to drag in some sound that I recorded on my field recorder. I have got this texture which I recorded when I was on the tube the other day in London. It sounds like this. Just random background noise. So how are we going to make this actually work for our beat? Let's get started. First off, I'm going to filter out the low end because I'm going to add a bass in a second. Next, we're going to add an ambient reverb, which is non-linear. So it means the reverb is going to keep changing and morphing over time and be super long. So it's going to make our sound super, super ambient. Non-linear B. You can hear that's already kind of crazy. It's already morphing it, warping it, making it sound really cool. So if we added a gate and then automated the length of that gate just up slowly, but not up to like a super high level or anything. Let's see how that sounds. Now that sounds very cool, and then we'll have it automate back down. And that's already adding a lot of extra life. If we now add a granular effect on top of that, I mean, come on, we're talking serious extra interest. Then we'll just turn it way down in the mix and have something sounding really cool. Let's get we can get something pretty crazy with the crystals. We just blend that into taste. Very low. Now we've got a pretty glitchy bit of texture we can use there, just to adding that extra life and interest. And that, look, let's just play it with and without the texture. So without, it's cool. With, you're hearing all that extra movement. Your ear's like, what is going on? Really draws you into the sound. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually really feeling the original drums over this section, but I do want to get some of that more trappy influence like Rocky uses in songs like Fashion Killer and Level, because I just think it's cool to have a bit of a change up. So let's just take these drums off and get some more like trappy drums. We can use similar samples, but maybe with a different pattern and a trappy sounding hat. We've got these pretty trappy, kind of distorted sounding drums. So let's maybe go for a trap snare initially, and then maybe grab a trap hi-hat to go over it, and then we can get a kick pattern in after we've got that kind of down. We've got a nice simple kick pattern in. One thing just to pay attention to is I've just turned the velocities of a few of the notes down to give a little bit of extra bounce, and I've also added a couple of ghost notes on the 16th just to give a little bit of extra groove. So let's hear that just without the ghost note. It's fine. Then with the ghost note, just adds, you know, a little bit more groove and bounce. So that's something to pay attention to. Let's add a couple of rolls in the hi-hat pattern. Okay, we've just added a couple rolls there, and we're also going to do another cool trick to change the hi-hat, which is just to formant shift it over time. Little Altar Boy, this is a trick I also did in my Frank Ocean video recently, and it worked absolutely gorgeous there, so let's try it here. Just take a little bit of top end out of this hi-hat. Send a bit of it to our room as well. So let's spread this with like a micro shift or something. So I think adding a perk sound in here would really add a little bit to the groove, get some more interest going. So let's check out anything that might sound cool. That's actually very Clams Casino, isn't it? What if we were to maybe stretch it out? I like this part of it the most. Nice. Let's pan that out to the side a little bit. Okay, I think we're ready to add like a bass in here. So in Rocky's music, he uses a range of different basses, but he's a hip hop boy at heart, so we're going with an 808 here. Add some decapitator on there just to get hitting. I think all that's left is to add in some improvised. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do ASAP Rocky style vocals, but we'll put some vocals in there because it's fun and why not. If you're a bit lost on your music production journey or you're wondering how you can make industry standard level beats, I do have a couple of spaces open in my one-to-one coaching program, Producers Paradise. If you want to take your music to the next level, then just book a free call down below and we'll see if it's the right fit for you. With that, let's take a listen to the final beat.
Looking at the city lights, I don't really know what the city likes. Sniffing white, like I'm Casper with the cold. Over blurry nights, this kind of shit gets old. Where'd you wanna go from here? Why'd you try and disappear? Where'd you wanna go? Where'd you wanna go? Where'd you wanna go?
Not perfect, but we did our best. See you in the next one, guys. Love ya.